Well, hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to a new episode of He Said, He Said, He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and I am so happy to be with you all this evening on Friday, January the 27th. Yes, we're already at the end of 1 month, and I hope that we are finding all of you well. Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, our show, we are celebrating Black Girl Magic tonight. Our special guest has published a magazine. She's been the creator of the nation's, I'm going to say, the nationwide book club empowering women to read. She's a best-selling author, was the editor-in-chief of one of the most highly recognized magazines still today for African-American women. She is the CEO of a hospitality empire. Monique Greewood is here, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to talk about her journey for becoming her own boss, the lessons learned, her successes, and what it means to having what matters, which is the book that she wrote almost 25 years ago. And I still take excerpts from it for me, for my own personal growth, if you will. And we're going to talk about that later on tonight in the show. I want to take a moment, if I can. I want to send up prayers for Mr. Tyree Nichols. He's the Black man in Memphis, Tennessee, who was beaten to death by 5 Black police officers. Tonight, they're going to release the video, of which I have no intentions to see. Hopefully I can, if it runs on social media, I can find a way to skip past it. But I want to send up prayers to his family because believe me, ladies and gentlemen, I am honestly praying for our nation. This week has been, really sad for our nation. And after they show the video, we have no idea what's going to happen. So again, send up prayers for Tyree Nichols' family and say a prayer for our nation. Well, again, our show is all about Black girl magic tonight. And, I can't do what I do when I do it if I don't have my guys on stage. So if you all are ready, we're ready for the chat to get Vash and Boddie up in here. Can we go to the chat?
Hello.
What's up, gentlemen?
Hey.
It's Friday. Oh,
Lord.
Oh,
Lord.
Can we do roll call?
I only have this to give you in this little screen thing, so I'm going to do everything.
How are you guys doing?
Hey, how are you?
I am doing fantastic. Made a quick trip to New York yesterday where I got pampered from head to toe.
Excellent.
I'll have to show you pictures of my toenails because they're painted. I want to know if you guys paint your toes.
I do not, but hey.
You don't?
I do not, but I do not stand in judgment of those who do.
I do not paint
judgment.
My toes.
Like, that's not even a space for that. It's all about
expression.
Judgment-free zone up in here. So how are you doing tonight, Mr. Edwards? I like your background is different. What's going on?
You like my background? I've changed my background. I'm away for a little business. Actually, I'm closer to our brother Vash because I'm at a business trip up to Philadelphia. So I am coming to you live from the Marriott in downtown Philadelphia.
The bell curve of where we are when we bring you the show has shifted from DC to Philadelphia.
Correct.
We're giving it to you.
I'm a little closer to Vash. That's right.
North.
Why am I feeling like I'm out of the circle? Nobody told me. I could have been somewhere in Philly, somewhere, so I could be there too. But
we digress.
Bobby didn't reach out to get together with me either, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. You know what? I heard that read somewhere. I think we got a couple of people here we want to say hi to. Yes. We have George Pringle is here.
Hey, George.
Monica Pleasant is here. Hey, Monica. One of two of our faithful listeners.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the show tonight. You guys, I don't know if you all have heard it or not, but 3 major pop divas are about to drop their concerts in 2023. Okay. And one of them, I bought my ticket today. All right. And so, but let me talk, and the pop divas I'm talking about, I think they are Beyonce,
Beyonce.
Janet,
I love that.
Beyonce.
Thank you for like giving her some extra flavor. Beyonce.
Janet Jackson,
Okay.
and Madonna.
Mhm.
Okay, and you know what? I'm sorry, I'm a huge Madonna fan. I bought my ticket, but the three of them are dropping their concerts this year, and I wanted to talk about this because, as you know, Beyonce just did a big show over in Dubai. Right? Did you all hear about that? Where she got paid? Some people said $24 million. Some people said $35 million.
Yeah.
I don't care. It's 24, 35 more million dollars that I don't have. But the reason I'm talking about this is because the LGBT community was giving her flack about performing over there because Dubai is so anti-gay.
Okay.
And they said she was selling out.
Okay. I'm part of the LGBTQI community. And as are you and you, Bobby. Did y'all give her flack?
Oh, I didn't give her. No, I didn't. I'm just talking about the folks, the haters that are on social media.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just so over people encapsulating a community in totality because of a couple people who have said some things and doing it for clickbait. T.S. Madison was talking about how trans people are upset about something. I'm like, girl, you trans. Are you upset about it? Then don't be trying to say that the whole community is just to get people to click on your stuff. Whoever's upset, people can be upset about everything. Everything's on a bell curve. And if there's some folks that are upset, they do not speak for me. Get your money, girl. Perform where you're going to perform. I understand that Dubai and the United Arab Emirates has issues with gayness on the outside because I have been there and know people who live there, and I know on the inside, those boys are doing what they need to do with each other until they can get married because the women ain't. So I am not tripping on any of that.
I get, and Vash, I am raising my hand to you. Very well said. But I also wanted to talk about this so I could bring light to some things because the clickbait, if you will, or the social media haters who are talking about it, they're the same persons who are going to, buy tickets for these people when they come to, when they perform in the United States. And some of the states that they're performing in are anti-gay. And so I wanted to bring up the 13 anti-gay states, ladies and gentlemen, so you all could see them. And, if you're going to buy a ticket for one of these performers, I just bought one in DC for Madonna. So but DC ain't nowhere on here. Okay. Ain't nowhere on here. I'm just saying. But these are the 13 states. And so, you're hating on Beyonce for going over to India to get her paper. What you going to do when she comes to the United States? You still going to go?
That's what I'm saying. If someone's saying what they got to say, they're saying what they have to say. But to encapsulate it all and to try to say, "Oh, the LGBTQI people," just so other people can lash back out, right. It's creating division, which is so totally ridiculous. And I don't think that we should buy into stuff like that.
Well, I certainly ain't buying into it because they ain't spending my coins no way, no how.
Thank you.
Okay, because when Bay come here, the tickets are expensive anyway.
How much you pay?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I paid enough to go.
Well, because there was this whole thing with the Taylor Swift tickets, and the person in charge of Ticketmaster has been having to testify to have, congressional insight into why this is going on, and they need to do antitrust things to try to make sure that as Ticketmaster sells tickets, that they do not amp the prices so high up because there's a monopoly on ticket,
Well, it was Madonna, and believe me, the system didn't fail. Let me just say that, okay? But tickets they sold out pretty fast. But no, I paid a little over $2 for my tickets. So
100 or 1,000?
100.
Oh Lord.
Okay. Because Taylor Swift tickets got up to 2,000. So I just want to make sure that we are, that you did not get so reamed. 200 is not that bad.
No, I did see a ticket for Madonna for 1,800.
Well, look, eggs are almost 700, so I think you got okay.
I'm gonna get you. But no, ladies and gentlemen, we just wanted to bring light to that story, and also give you all, the 13 states that are, anti-gay, and you also Florida. Some of you all know what they are. But
speaking of which, Maurice was saying there's that nasty word. Maurice Scott was saying there's that nasty word again, Florida.
It's an F word.
I have a slightly different take on it, and I know I probably stand out on my own. For all three of them, I think they're going to make judgment calls as to where they perform and all of that. And I think we as their fans and supporters will have to decide whether or not we continue to support them or support them wherever they perform. The bigger issue for me is the extraordinary cost and just the reality that I am at an age now where I am no longer satisfied to simply just be in the space. Like I will not endure a concert that I'm so far back that I have to watch the jumbo screen in order to see the person. I'm just I just can't, I'm not doing that anymore.
You need a lap dance?
So
no, I just need to be in smaller, more intimate venues. I can't I'm not doing the large thing because I'm like, I've spent all this money and I'm either looking through my binoculars the whole time, somebody's standing up in front of me dancing, and I got to tell them, if you stand up one more time, we're going to have an issue because I can't see the ant on the stage that's way down there. I'm just beyond that. So
well, I get that, but I've never been one to stand in line for anything. I
didn't say anything about line.
Well, I'm just talking about the whole
crowd.
The whole.
I know you're VIP. You don't stand in line. I know you're VIP.
No, it's not only that. It's just that, if you customer service comes first, you know what I'm saying? And so I get you, Bobby, and tickets are expensive and whatnot. But I think I'm gonna leave it alone and say, you know what, Bobby, that is so nice of what you just
said. Look, to each his own. I know there are people, as long as they breathe the same air as the entertainer and they can say they saw it live, they're happy, and I'm happy for them. I'm just saying, for me, I just can't do it anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, like there are smaller venues, and sometimes, well, I remember back in the day, people would perform in a big venue and then go to a smaller venue and do something like, spontaneous. But I don't know if they still do that anymore.
Well, in the end, you are going to go see Madonna. You're going to have a wonderful time, and that is what's happening, because you didn't ask Bobby to pay 1 penny for that ticket, so you go and have a good old time.
Or to go.
You said what?
Or to go.
So,
no, he did not.
So,
invited. Thank you very much for pointing that out.
Well, thank you, you guys. Well, thank you for indulging me on that part of the chat. If you all are ready,
we're not speaking to you now.
I am so happy about our special guest tonight because I know her personally and I know her professionally, and I know Bobby as well knows her personally and knows her professionally, and we're introducing her to Vash, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. So if we can get on with the show, you guys ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's bring her on.
Okay. So look, tonight we're going to have an up close and one-on-one conversations with the most successful Black woman in one of the most successful Black business women in the world that I know, Monique Greewood. She's a graduate of the prestigious Howard University. Her impressive career began right after leaving Howard at Fairchild Publications, where she created Children's Business Magazine, a monthly trade magazine about children's apparel. She went on to become the editor-in-chief of Essence Magazine, the premier magazine for African-American women. But after leaving Essence Magazine, she became the CEO of Akwaaba Bed and Breakfast, an impressive collection of historic Airbnb. Oh, I'm going to say B&Bs, not Airbnbs. Don't let me correct that. That includes these locations: Brooklyn, New York. I think we have an image of Brooklyn, New York. We have Cape May, New Jersey. We have Washington, D.C. I think we also have, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hey, now.
And the mansion at Noble Lane, a boutique resort on 22 acres, a former Woolworth estate in Pennsylvania's Pocono Mountains. Wow. She's a best-selling author of Having What Matters, the Black Woman's Guide to Creating a Life You Really Want. No, I'm not a Black woman, but it did help me, okay?
Inside.
Okay. She's a star of her own reality TV show, Checked In, on the Oprah Winfrey Network on OWN. And now the stylish home collection under the Akwaaba Inns for Hotel collection is exclusively at Macy's department stores, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, come on, y'all, in that comment section. Put your fingers together and clap. Let's welcome Monique Greewood to our panel.
Hey, Monique.
Hey, Monique.
Sister girl, come on in here.
Welcome to the show. Look, before you came on, we were telling our producer about you, and we don't get many O's from him. He just went, oh. Okay, but girl, you have been doing it since I've known you, and one of the reasons we have you here, I'm going to say personally for me, you are about helping Black people. You have helped me in my career personally just by saying, Alvin, you can. And I just want you to know it has stuck with me. And I'm here today. Part of the reason is because you are my friend and you have encouraged me. So,
well, thank you, Alvin. You know, that is that means a lot to me, because I think that's what we need to do more of, is push people forward. You know, we talk about haters, and they exist, but we need those people who are going to believe in us, even in those times that we're not believing in ourselves. And so, you know, it's critically important.
well, you have done that in major forms with me. So I'm going to kick off our conversation with you tonight, Monique, and I'm going to ask you if you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be and why?
I would say bodacious. And I'd say that because I really think that we all have to not be afraid and replace fear with faith and step out and do those things that even we may not believe we can do every day, but it's time to claim that. I would say compassionate. I really love people, and I want people to live their best lives. And compassion is part of that. What else am I? Blessed. I think I'm the most blessed person I know. You know, there isn't a thing that I have wanted for, and those things I've wanted for that weren't for me, they didn't come my way, and that's a blessing too.
Wow, thank you so much, Monique. I'm glad this leads into my next question before I turn it over to Bobby and Vash. In the 1920s, your grandfather, Benjamin Greenwood, operated a small grocery store in the southeastern part of DC. He later owned the Greenwood Transfer Moving and Storage Company, a business that was eventually listed as one of the United States' top Black-owned businesses. Having this history in your life, Monique, would you attribute your success to nature or nurture?
Well, I can't say that it was nurture, because quite honest with you, to be honest with you guys, I didn't learn that history until I had already graduated Howard. I was at my family's home in DC, and I wanted my diploma to hang up in my office, and I was rummaging through that drawer that all mamas have with, you know, report cards and all kinds of things go in that drawer. And I found an old Washington Post newspaper about my grandfather and that story. And it was incredibly empowering. But growing up, I was the daughter of a moving man. My father had a job in the family business. He hauled hauled furniture. And I think, you know, my aunt, on the other hand, who became the president of the company when my grandfather died, she was living large. I used to call her Alexis Carrington Colby, for those who are old enough to remember that. I mean, she wore earrings that looked like chandeliers to me. She had a swimming pool in the backyard. She kept her feet warm with mink coats. I mean, she was all of that. But I was raised very modestly because my dad sold his share of the family business to my aunt when my grandfather died, to buy the home that he raised us in. And that was the home that he lived in until he died. And so we were raised very modestly. And that's why I gave the word bodacious, because for a girl who never slept in a bed by herself until she was 22, because it was always my sister sleeping with me in a full-size bed, and we were always queen-size women. And think that I could have mansions in multiple cities and multiple beds that people would pay over $200 a night to sleep.
Wow.
You know, that was empowering. But when I did learn my grandfather's story, there were a couple of things that stood out for me. One was fortitude. He started with just a modest corner grocery store, and probably would have stayed right there hadn't the other store in the neighborhood complained to the grocery delivery company that they didn't want their groceries delivered in the same truck with the Black man's. And so my grandfather, you know, he could have gotten angry and could have called his boys, and, you know, or could have just, you know, whined.
Done that DC thing.
Yes, exactly. Whined and complained to my grandmother and all of that. But he didn't do that. He got busy and he got creative, and he figured out how he was going to buy his own truck to pick up his own groceries. And he only needed to do that once a week. So then he thought, what will I do with the truck the rest of the week? And that's when he decided he would get into the moving and storage business. Mm-hmm. And so that's I live by that, you know, find a way. There is a way, find a way. Don't give up, don't give in, keep pushing forward. And so I felt incredibly empowered by my grandfather's story, but it wasn't one that I was nurtured with. You know, I took pride in running out of my high school where Bobby Edwards went with me, the same high school. And my family had a contract with the DC public school system, and they would deliver books and desks and things like that. And the truck would pull up, and I would always go running out to see if it was my daddy on the truck. And but he was a moving man. He wore overalls and he hauled furniture. He did not own the business. And I learned very quickly, you know, you can be employed or you can be the employer. And so I wanted to be like my aunt, Alexis Carrington Colby, and have, you know, chandelier earrings. So he was a great inspiration for me.
Well, we're going to cut away, and when we come back, we would like to see those earrings. Just let you know, like, it's going to be an opportunistic cutaway.
But seriously, Monique, this is such a special opportunity for you to join us this evening, obviously for the show. But as you said, personally, for us, we go back to high school, and then we shared our time together at Howard as well. I would love for you to share how Howard impacted you.
Well, I have to be honest with you. I grew up down the street from Howard. You know, I could basically walk to school. And so it was the last place I wanted to go. For me, it felt like going to the 13th grade. You know, it just wasn't special. I couldn't wait to get to New York. I mean, I just knew that I needed to be in New York City. And so I went to Howard begrudgingly because I only got a partial scholarship to Columbia University in New York, which was my school. I wanted to be in New York, and it got to be about a week before school was about to start. And my parents were like, well, we can't make up that difference. You need to go down the street. And I went down the street. I went to Howard, and you know, I should have been able to have had many scholarships, but it was late, and I was just glad to have a seat in the classroom. But I was Monique from the block for my whole freshman year. You know, I still hung with my girls from around the way, and I didn't really get involved in the campus life and all of that. And then I got over myself and got really involved in Howard. I became I think I was the secretary of the student council. Then I became the lifestyle editor of the Hilltop, the school newspaper.
Yes, she was.
Doing fashion shows for homecoming, and you know, so it was just, you know, I became Miss Howard after not having wanting to be there. And what was so amazing about it was that you knew that at Howard you could be anything and anyone you wanted to be, because the smartest person in the class looked like you. Absolutely. And the laziest person in the class looked like you. So you can find yourself on that spectrum. And the professors and the administration, everyone was invested in your success. And I think that's a lesson even now for most of us and many of us. You know, I don't want to be anywhere where I'm tolerated. I only want to be where I'm celebrated.
Come on.
So,
Amen.
You know, Howard was the place for me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that you allowed that story to evolve, because I was not going to let our viewers and listeners think that you went to Howard and you weren't all over the place, because I can attest to the fact that, you know, there wasn't any major fashion show or anything where Monique Greenwood was not the commentator calling the shots. And so that was what I know to be true.
And I have to interject right here. I did not go to Howard, ladies and gentlemen, but because of Monique Greenwood pulling me in and exercising my skill set as a fashion producer, she invited me to produce shows at Howard University, and that's where I met some of the most brilliant models in the world. Wow. And so it was because of you that, I mean, everybody thought I went to Howard because every fashion show I had my hands in it. And so it was because of you, Monique.
Well, thank you. I mean, Alvin, our fashion show days were just magical. You know, I don't know. I get choked up a little bit when I think about it. And I remember my aunt, that same one I mentioned before, Vash, with the chandelier earrings, she used to model and would have me in the church fashion shows, you know, in the basement and all that kind of stuff. And then I used to start modeling, and they would, you know, you have to pay to be a model in the fashion show. I was like, what's this? You know? you got to pay, or you got to sell 15 tickets if you want to be a model, stuff like that. And I was like, you know, the modeling is the work. You should be getting paid. And that's how I segued from modeling into commentating, because the commentator controlled the show and always got a check. And so I said, I can talk. I'm going to be a commentator. And so I was known for lines like, you know, saying something about a dress, like, this dress says, I'm champagne, don't treat me like beer. And, you know, just on. And I would just trash talk my way through the entire fashion show. And
kind of what I remember.
But no, I got one of your lines, and I'm not going to botch this up. When someone would come out in something that was just spectacular, she would say, this is what you wear on Sunday when you know you're not coming home till Monday. And I would lose it. I'd be backstage going, she said that. And
okay. You're not coming home.
Expecting to hear her one-liners.
You will not cross your threshold till Monday. That's what I'm talking.
It's true. I was good with those, and I'm still good with those. But it was those fashion shows and those one-liners that got me into becoming a fashion journalist, right? Because that copy has to be snappy.
Yep.
You want to describe the clothes, but you also want to allow the viewer, the person looking at it, to see themselves in that clothing and think about how it's going to make them feel when they wear that clothing. And so that was what it was all about. And all of that trash talking, if you will, was also to pump up the models. I mean, they got out there and they were ready to twirl. You know, and Alvin always had the pumping music, and I had the mouth, and they were just carrying on out on the stage.
A match made in heaven.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Now you have so many obviously ventures within your portfolio. What was the first one?
With the bed and breakfast, are we talking about?
Or just, you know, all the things that your first venture. What was your first business venture? I know you.
Okay. Yeah. So I spent the career as a fashion journalist and then a magazine editor. And then when I branched out on my own, I started the bed and breakfast in Brooklyn. And next year we will be in business for 30 years.
Wow. In fact, a couple of viewers have been mentioning that they love the Brooklyn location.
Great. Well, you know, it's just not easy to keep anything going for 30 years, not a relationship, not anything for 30 years. I've been running the bed and breakfast now for that long. And at the time that I opened in Brooklyn, in Bed-Stuy, before Bed-Stuy was the center of the universe, you know, people were believing the hype, do or die Bed-Stuy. And, you know, it was known for many things, but not for an elegant, sophisticated place to be. You know, we did this, and I can remember my daddy, and I'm a daddy's girl. He said to me, you know, what makes you think people are going to spend their hard-earned money to stay in this place? And, you know, and that's when I went back to, I said, your daddy makes me think I can do it, because he did Greenwood's Transfer Moving and Storage Company.
Exactly.
That was one. And, you know, clearly people looked at me as if I had three eyes, because it was a dump. It really, a beautiful mansion in the bones of it, but it was a dump. And so they could look at me with three eyes, because I'm a firm believer that we should all have three eyes, because that third eye is the eye of vision. It is the eye of vision. It is the ability to see the possibility. Absolutely. And so buying that mansion for $250,000. So anybody who lives in Brooklyn knows that's like unheard of. Just pick your face up right now.
Look at that.
And that's what started it, doing that. You know, now I get offers literally every week, and it makes you think about whether you want to keep making beds and making eggs and making people happy when someone offers you $8 million.
I was going to say, I'm assuming that those offers are not $250,000.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
But because of taking the chance on me, first of all, leaving the job, Alvin, and pursuing, you know, my passion and believing that I could make this work, that is how I was able to buy the other properties, because as the equity accrued in this property, I was able to pull it out and then buy the next piece of real estate. And so really the value of what I've been able to create for me, not for the customer, the value is in the experience, but for me is the acquisition of a real estate portfolio, which is something that, you know, I can now pass on to my daughter, and hopefully she'll pass on to her children, because what it needs to be about for us right now as a people generational wealth is what we need to
Absolutely.
talk
Absolutely.
Right.
Third eye. I have a whole new vision of a third eye.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So, and then after Brooklyn, I tell you what, I'm a firm believer that your business plan has to marry your life plan. And so this girl who I told you already didn't sleep in a bed by herself until she was 22, had this audacious, bodacious dream to have a home that I love in a city that I love for each season of the year. So what I was trying to do was marry my life plan with my business plan. And therefore I came back to DC to do a bed and breakfast in DC so that in my personal life, I could be there in the spring. And then I went to Cape May, New Jersey, so that I could be at the shore in the summer. And then I went to New Orleans because I wanted to be someplace where it's still warm when it's cold most every place else. And so that's how I chose those initial locations.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah. What I have recently done, so just an edit to the locations, a year and a half ago, I sold both Cape May and DC because those offers for the real estate became too irresistible. And as a good CEO, I had to make the best business decision, and the highest rated use was real estate. So we did that, and now we're able to go deeper in the other areas where we remain. So I've purchased 3 different farmhouses that are on the grounds of the mansion in the Poconos, which is on 22 acres. And I've turned those into vacation rentals that complement the bed and breakfast. And then I purchased a building down the street from the bed and breakfast in Philadelphia, where you are, Bobby. And this spring, we'll be opening a tea salon because I'm a firm believer that we have to reclaim high tea in the afternoon for ourselves.
Yes.
We deserve to put our pinky up too.
Because I love a good high tea. Yes.
Absolutely. So we'll be opening the Akwaaba Tea Salon in Philadelphia down the street from the bed and breakfast this spring.
Wow.
I love it. Keep us posted.
Yes.
Absolutely. So Monique, I am really a good manifester. And one of the things that I know is that when you are trying to manifest something in your life, anything that comes from a place of love that is going to manifest love happens so quickly. So for you to say that you wanted things that were going to come from love to make more love, absolutely spot on. With that, how would you attribute most of your success? Would you say it was serendipitous or planning?
I'm a big planner. And so in the book that Alvin was showing you, Having What Matters, I talk about my pea soup recipe for success. And it starts with planning. And it starts with positive people who are going to encourage you. It starts with persistence, not giving up, keep pushing forward. It starts with patting yourself on the back, because there are going to be some tough days and you're going to make some mistakes, right? But then you pat yourself on the back and say, yeah, well, that happened, but look what you did here. And then you keep going. No, it's very intentional. I live my life with intention. I try to see what it looks like when it's right. And then I work toward it. But, you have to be, you got to put the work in. I definitely believe in that for sure.
I gotta say, Monique, speaking of the book, I am looking at it is page 63 that I open every other day, and it says 21 ways to give yourself to yourself. That is one of my best, I'm going to say, pages in this book that I look at often. And number 15 says, write yourself a love letter, seal it, and open it the next time you need a lift.
Yes.
Monique, thank you.
Yeah. That is so important because, we can't stop and wait for other people's acceptance. We have to be accepting of ourselves first and foremost. And secondly, a lot of us beat ourselves up. We just go, look at you. Why did you do that? Oh, that's so stupid. We beat ourselves up. We don't need to do that. The world will do that for us. We have to build ourselves up. So when they beat us down, we stay right there. And so I'm a big believer of talking to myself all the time in the mirror. When I bought the Poconos location, which is a former Woolworth estate, I really thought about the fact that my mother, my grandmother, women who look like me back in segregation couldn't sit at the counter at Woolworths.
Thank you.
Right? And the Woolworths counter really is the birthplace of the civil rights movement. when those students down in Greensboro sat at the counter at Woolworths and withstood physical abuse, verbal abuse, and then it started the sit-ins across the country at lunch counters everywhere. I remind myself of that every single night. And I also put my guests on notice that y'all are sitting here. We all up in their mansion. Do you understand that? Do you understand?
I mean, Tyler Perry talks about buying the grounds and the plantation and putting yours story is exactly on par with that. Like, it is so important historically that you have done this, and I applaud you.
Absolutely. Thank you. I have to say thank you. When I went up to look at this property, and it's a long story, so I won't share that part, but I will say this. They didn't want to show it to me without looking at my bank records. And I mean, that's just a look, right? And so I knew that would be a deal breaker if they saw what they needed. They would not have seen what they needed to see, right? So, it's a power relationship. I had met a property, a bed and breakfast about 20 minutes from my property at a trade conference. And on the way back to New York from the Poconos, I saw the sign. I remembered meeting her, and I went in there, asked for her. She came out. She said, "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" Long story short, the guy who wouldn't show it to me, the realtor, she used to babysit him. She said, "I changed his diapers." She called him up and said, "You need to show this lady this property." I was back the next week, saw the property. We finished 3 hours it took. Came outside. He went to shake my hand, say goodbye. And I was like, "That's it? That's all? That's it?" And he said, "Well, what are you going to say?" "I'll take it full price, no contingencies, close in 60 days. And I, in my DC way, said, "Basically," right? And then knowing that I did not have the money to be able to purchase this property, right? So he said, well, follow me. My office is right downtown on Main Street. I got in my beat up Jeep. He got in his late model BMW. I went to follow him down to Main Street. I started beating myself up the same way I'm telling you and our listeners not to do, and saying, "Why did you say that? You wasted the man's time." And I was going on and on and on. And then one of the artists that you mentioned, Alvin, song came on the radio, right? And it came at just the right moment. And now, anytime I speak, I have to have them play that song. It's like giving my theme song, right? That's what it is for me. And it's not the part that says to the left. It's the part that says, "You must not know about me." And I sang that song at the top of my lungs, looking at myself squarely in the rearview mirror, down the hill to Main Street. By the time I got there, I pulled out my checkbook. I wrote a check for $5,000. It was my good faith deposit. I said, "You know what? I don't know how. Here's my good faith deposit." Why? Because I have good faith. I have good faith.
So when I asked you that question about planning versus serendipity, I understand the power of good planning, but there's also that notion of serendipity, of blessings, however you wish to acknowledge it. But that was a wonderful story of saying how things just kind of came together based on your planning, but yet here it happened in a way that was never, ever expected. And that's amazing.
Absolutely. I definitely believe all good things come together for those who believe. And so I wrote the check, and it took time, but it happened.
Amazing.
We're having church up in here. I read a post once that said, God doesn't check your bank account. He checks your faith. And we've been reminded of that. Now, Monique, you have multiple properties, obviously, but some of us know about the reality show that was actually on the OWN network, Checked In. And I was blessed to join you and the family at the DC property at one of the premieres of that show. I remember spending time with both you, Glenn, and Glenn. The Glens, Big Glenn, Little Glenn. But you focused in that show, you focused on the Pennsylvania property, the mansion at Noble Lane. Can you tell us how all of that came about, that whole OWN network kind of experience came about, and why that was the property that you focused on?
So Vash said it best when he talked about whatever we want to call it, serendipity, or the blessings or whatever. I dream big, but there are some things that I don't even dream that big, and I never thought I'd have a reality show on Oprah's network. And I got a series of calls within 1 week's time. And I was like, what's going on here? And these were producers saying, we think you would make for a great reality show. And one of the producers called and said, I'm in New York, whereas everybody else was in LA. So he said, I want to come and physically sit down with you and talk to you about this.
Mm-hmm.
And he came, and he turned out to be a brother. So I know that was part of the strategy. It was a good strategy, because over the phone, I couldn't tell who I was talking to.
Right.
And he assured me that his interest was in creating a reality show that would not be ratchet, but that would be empowering. That would show and showcase the best of who we are. And so I was all in. It turned out that's not who we ended up going with. We went with Lionsgate. That's Tyler Perry's people. That's who we used to be with before he did his own thing. And so, he told me what happened. He said, well, here's how it works. There's a particular network who's interested in a show very similar to Below Deck, is what he said. Mm-hmm. And they are looking for a hospitality business that is family owned. They would prefer if it's a Black person, and they would love it if it's a woman. And if she spoke, I was like, oh, so y'all have called the right one now. So that's how that happened. And so, we signed with them. Oprah asked to see a pilot. She sent out her number one, her executive of the studio. They came, and he said, here's what Oprah is loving. You said something in your little, what do they call that? The little small thing. They call it
the sizzle, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They said, you said something in your sizzle. Yeah. You said that when your guests come, they don't just come with their luggage. Sometimes they bring a lot of baggage. And that's when the innkeeper becomes an auntie. And Oprah loved that, right? And that is true. And that's the kind of experience we have with our guests. We bring them in. We try to read what it is that they need and try to feed them that with a little bit of whipped cream on top, And so a lot of times, I'll see couples who will come, they'll sit at the breakfast table. They have nothing to say to each other. This is a marriage that's been going on for a couple of decades now, and they've forgotten why they love the person across the table from them. Mm-hmm. And so I have to come in there and say something like, oh my goodness, so now how did you two meet? So I have to take them back down memory lane. So for him to remember those fine legs that, he saw when she was pedaling the bike and all that, they tell me their stories. And then they're going back and they're kind of reliving the love, and it reignites the love for them. And so the show kind of took on that tone. We were an unscripted show for sure, and we didn't manufacture drama. When you're running a small business that's family owned by a Black woman, it comes naturally. You don't have to manufacture drama. And the guests were bringing their stories. And what was so powerful about the show is what was their story. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I had, just the right thing to say or just the right thing to do. And the other times I was just like, you need some therapy. I wasn't trying to be a Yala fix my love life, So, but it was a great experience. We loved it. We got touched by the Oprah effect, so we were sold out for 2 years running after the reality show. And, there are still guests who come and say, oh my God, I used to love your show. I watched your show all the time. And it was great. But, after you have a season, they go, okay, we'll sign you for another season. But at that point, reality TV was ratchet. They didn't want a nice little show with nice people having a nice time, and we weren't about to do that. We're not going to sell out. We're not going to be anything less than who we are as a great royal people. And so, no, we weren't going to do that.
Right. Well, I was getting ready to ask you this next question because we've never had a reality show star on our show. And I was going to ask you how much of that was, real or reality, but you pretty much answered that. Very real. So,
well, you know what, Alvin, my attorney, I had to find the entertainment attorney. I was in a whole new sphere. I didn't know anything about it. And he said, well, you're not talent. This is your business. They don't know nothing about your business or how this works. So we have to make you an executive producer. And so that's what he did. So then I had control over content at the time that we were doing the show. And so, they would sometimes say, could you go back in the kitchen and get that plate and bring it back out for the guests? And I was like, I cannot. I can't. You know what? These people are real people. They pay real money. This is a real business, and they're ready to eat. I am not taking the plate away, going back in the kitchen. You need to follow me. Keep up. Follow me, and we'll get there.
Viewers, you all have to know what for you all who just heard her say that. She just gave you so much of who she is.
Absolutely.
Okay, I was sitting here because that. I mean, transparency is her middle name. Also, she just gave you Monique 2.0. So, Monique, I'm gonna switch gears for a minute because I want to go back to this. I mean, I want to go back to the Akwaaba, and for our viewers, can you tell us, how did you come to choose that name and what does it mean?
Akwaaba means welcome in a language spoken in Ghana. So if you were to go to Ghana, West Africa, everyone would say Akwaaba to you the way they say aloha to you in Hawaii or bonjour in France, right? And so I was looking for a word that had cultural relevance and that also had relevance to what I do, hospitality. So Akwaaba means welcome. So it made perfect sense to me. I also love that it starts with an A because I'm always first on the list because they're generally alphabetized. So that was also very intentional to choose a word that starts with an A.
Okay.
Voila.
Viewers, you heard it because some of you all call me. I mean, it's on her website, theakwaaba.com. Okay, it is there. And she told you. So for those of you who have been asking, that's what it means. Thank you, Samuel.
And Samuel's saying it's a great place. He's been there, and he says it's a great place, Monique.
Fantastic. You know what? The only thing about Akwaaba back in the day when I started 30 years ago is that nobody had a smartphone and they could Google and whatever. They would call 411, and the directory assistants never knew how to spell it. Right? They would go AKW. So let me say for those who are trying to figure it out, you can Google it, but it's AKWAA. B as in boy, A, Akwaaba.
Wow.
I am. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, Vash, I think is actually.
Monique, I have a question for you. So, you wrote a book called "Having What Matters," right? It's been a few years. You have lived a life. A lot has happened. What really matters?
I think.
I love your.
I think having, loving family and friends and a sense of community really matters for me. It really matters to me that at the end of the day, I mean, really at the end of the day, at the end of this life, we're going to have to ask ourselves a question. And I want to be prepared to answer the question and with the right answer. The question is, during our time here, did we make a mark or did we leave a stain? I'm all about the mark.
Right on. And what is your mark?
My mark is really, helping others live their best life. I just, some of us are old enough to remember layaway. You remember layaway, Bobby?
Wait, how did I get? Look, this is what I'm gonna say. If I remember, you remember.
I do. And I really feel like a lot of times we put our joy on layaway, and that's not it. We don't know, tomorrow is not promised. And so my mark, is like, did I do the best I could for my people? And my people would be my husband, my daughter, my sister, my community, all my people. You guys, did I do the best that I could? I don't believe in mediocrity. And so, I'm just going to give it my all.
As you have been.
Absolutely. Speaking of giving it your all, you have designed your own line of luxury bedding, decorative pillows, towels, robes. In fact, I remember walking into Macy's and seeing an ad, and I sent it to Alvin. I was like, look at who's in Macy's right now.
Yes. So yeah, that was, I'm going to go back to what Vash said before. It's like, I do believe in a vision board, right? And so having a collection that I designed that bared my brand had been on my vision board for like 8 years. I didn't know how I was going to make that happen. I didn't really have any contacts or I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know what to do. And here again, being the most blessed person that I know, the telephone rang. The gentleman said he's calling for Macy's and they want to do better. And they realized that they had no Black vendors in their home department. They had just done something called Icons of Style, where they had tapped, I think, 6 different Black designers / style influencers to create micro collections for Macy's, and they continue with that program. And they said, well, we've done nothing in the home space. You know, we've got some beauty brands and blah, 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 but nothing in the home space. And they said, well, our number 1 selling collection is the hotel collection. So we got to thinking, why not get a Black hotelier and have them design the collection? And I'm holding the phone like I cannot believe that this is what he's saying to me. And so I was just like, yes and yes. I was totally all in. I remember him saying that, you know, it's going to be a micro collection and da 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 da. And it took me about 3 conversations before I had the confidence, you know, look in the mirror, like, I don't know what you mean by a micro collection. You know, is that what he called it? I think that's what he called it. But anyway, by the 3rd conversation, I said, so what's a micro collection? You know, they said it's a one-time collection, is well edited for one time, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I stopped, I took a pause. I said, oh, I get it. Oh, I got it. You want a one-night stand. But when I get done laying it on you, you're going to wife me. And they fell out, you know, and there began our relationship, you know, and we had.
And this goes back to that fashion show.
Yeah, exactly.
What you wear on Sunday, you're not coming back until Monday. She told him, you want a one-night stand and you about to marry me.
So that's it.
We have this ongoing thing about being in the gutter and taking it out of the gutter.
Yes.
You just elevated that. You were like, you want a one-night stand? Oh, no. Your wife. That's fantastic.
Okay, but I'm going to ask you very
Vash,
quickly. Have you at least walked into Macy's and seen, like, I always wondered when something like that exists, have you treated yourself to walking into a Macy's and looking at yourself and going like, oh my God, that's me?
Yeah, the very first time when it hit the stores, I went to the Macy's Herald Square. I went with Pamela Macklin. She was my fashion editor when I was at Essence. And, you know, she went in there and she was just like, so, you know, those words of this is amazing. And, you know, the sales people look like me and they're like, oh my God, we're going to sell this for you, girl. We got you. We got you. Okay, remember, this is reversible. You know, this is reversible.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
Lovely.
Absolutely.
Well, there's so much I want to know about you because you're just so amazing. Was there ever a moment in your journey where something happened that took you so aback that you were like, wait, I have to readjust myself, regroup to get back out in here?
I need to ask you, hold 1 second.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen,
running a business.
She is working, and she told us there may be a moment where she had to do her thing. She's doing her thing.
This is live, people.
This is live. Okay,
yes,
again,
ringing the doorbell. Tell my husband, can you answer the door, please? They're locked out.
Amazing.
It is like we pulled the curtain back on Oz. You are seeing Oz do the thing now.
You're doing it.
Vash, I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Was there ever a moment where like things happened where you were like, oh, I have to take a step back and regroup and find myself again and go back out to it?
Well, I think I have to do that all the time.
Okay.
It's called, you know, quiet time, taking that moment for yourself to kind of reassess. I'm a big believer of reassessing. You know, it's the work that you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
So,
our big goal is to make sure that in having you here, that we are able to glean as much as we can from you to let our audience know how to go out and do it for themselves. So thank you for that. I mean, you are a superwoman, but it's nice to know that sometimes you have to rethink and regroup.
Oh yeah. And you know what? You have to not be afraid to pivot, right?
That's it.
It's okay to change your mind. You know, just because you went to school for accounting, their day may come when you no longer like numbers. And you have to be okay with that and figure out, well, what do I like? And go ahead and create the life that you're willing to live, you know. And some of us get stuck in other people's expectations, We get stuck in other people's definitions of success. And success is subjective, or at least it should be.
Absolutely.
You know, what rocks my world may feel like a rock in your shoe. And that's a good thing. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Wow.
She just did it again, I want to point out.
Well, Monique, we are getting close to the end of our interview, unfortunately. So I want to ask you before you leave, is there anything in your portfolio that we've left out? And what's next for you? And how can our viewers, our audience, follow you? I know we put up your website for the Akwaaba, but is there any other way that they can get in touch with you?
That's probably the best way. They can also follow us on social media. We're Akwaaba Ends, all one word. And I guess the next project will be that tea house with, God willing, we'll get going in September, in the spring. Lord, don't let me say September. No, a month away to go. Like the way it feels like it could be September, but the goal would be for the spring. I'd like to do another book, but writing a book means sitting down, and I haven't had a chance to do that. And then I like to flirt with my version of retirement, quite honestly. You know, I've been toiling and laboring for a long time, and I want to do that. It's not about you know, selling the brands. I don't intend to do that. You know, I just want work to be optional. You know, I don't want to have to pick up the phone like that and say, "Can somebody answer the doorbell?" You know, or worry about, you know, what's going to be for breakfast tomorrow morning. You know, I want to be the keeper of the brand, and I realize that I can't micromanage my business if I'm going to continue to grow and think out of the box. You know, and when I have the opportunity to sit, think, and dream, I come up with all kinds of things. I start thinking about, why can't there be, you know, a string of Akwaaba cabins on Royal Caribbean cruise lines, because y'all like to cruise. So I mean, how come we can't have Akwaaba, you know, suites on the cruise ship? I mean,
how cool would that be? Exactly.
You know, so I need that space, and I think that's another takeaway. If I'm talking to you right now, you've got to create some white space in order to be able to think out of the box. You got to get out of the box in order to think out of the box. All of that's critical, and it's not, you know, being selfish to claim that time for yourself. It's really about trying to create the next thing, the next big thing.
Yes.
Well, we had a viewer that I want to read what she just wrote. She said, Melissa says she's so very proud of you, my Brooklyn sister. You inspire me to do better every day. Elizabeth Rankin Fulcher, Deborah. I was reading all the names. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Deborah Fulcher Crimes. Yes.
Okay, I got it. Well, look, Monique. I want to give a quick shout out to your husband, Glenn, and your daughter, Glenn. I haven't seen them in ages, and Glenn, your daughter, wouldn't remember me. She was at my house when she was just a child. But I want to give a shout out to them and wish them well. And before we let you go, I want to read our words of the week, which you inspired, Monique. And that is, don't settle for average. Being your best bring your best to the moment. Then whether it fails or succeeds, at least you know you gave all you had. We need to live the best that's in us. And that was a quote by Angela Bassett. But wow, your interview inspired me to post that tonight. So,
well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I want to come hang out with y'all and party.
Well, since you mentioned that,
since you mentioned that, our anniversary is the 24th of February, and we were thinking that we could possibly come meet in Philadelphia and have it come up on Friday and have our anniversary show at one of your properties.
Let's make it happen. I'm all with that. Yeah.
Wait, I don't get to travel. Y'all do.
That could be a good thing.
Technicality.
Yes.
Could you imagine doing a show live from Akwaaba Mansion?
That would be fabulous.
I just put it out there. So because I will be working on that.
I've never met these guys.
Can you believe that?
So it would be the first time. It would be a monumental.
The three of us have never been in the same space.
I haven't met Vash in 3 years.
What?
It's amazing.
Wow. You guys have great chemistry. Great chemistry. Good.
And coming from you,
it's
done. She just stuck a fork in it. So I need some network to pick us up. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us tonight for our Black Girl Magic moment with our special guest, Monique Greenwood. Thank you so much for being here, my sister. I appreciate you. And ladies and gentlemen, we will see you all next week. It will just be Bobby, Vash, and I, and we're going to get newsy on you. And then we're going to get...
Hey, man.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, look at you. Look at you. Look at you.
Nice to see you. So, ladies and gentlemen,
and Monique is sending him to work.
Get the door.
Have a good evening, and we will see you on our next episode of He Said.
He said.
He said.
Love you, Monique.
Okay, talk to y'all later.
Glad you tuned in, Terry. Glad you enjoyed Monique. She's the bomb.